Well, I hope everyone enjoyed lunch, and I think we'll get started with the formal program. As I mentioned, Tova Davidson and the gang at Sustainable Waterloo Region have been great partners of us at the Chamber and do a tremendous amount of work around engaging the community in reducing GHG emissions here in the region of Waterloo, and have a great story to tell. Tova has been very supportive of this, and before her, Mike Maurice at Sustainable Waterloo have been big supporters of this event. And while she's traveling this week in BC, as I said before, she wanted to be with us and has done a short video to sort of give an update on Sustainable Waterloo and to be with us today. And I think with the bell there, we'll just look up on the screen on the side and you'll see Tova shortly.
Hello everybody, my name is Tova Davidson and I'm the Executive Director at Sustainable Waterloo Region. I'm really sorry I couldn't be there with you today as I'm out of town, but thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for hosting the Energy and Environment Forum. I'm just going to take a few minutes of your time to give you some updates on what's been happening at Sustainable Waterloo Region over the past year. 2018 marks our 10-year anniversary, and in our year-end report, which is there with you today, over 100 stories of organizations are shared. Our events host over 1,000 people to help inspire and educate them on how they can make sustainability a central part of their organization. And one program alone has the impact of over 10,000 cars off the road. Decision making needs data, and we're proud to be managing over 100,000 data points across our programs, as well as the 1 million tons that we work to manage, measure, and hopefully reduce across Waterloo Region. But of course, we don't do this alone. This is one movement that is building together. So let me give you some specifics on each of the programs. Climate Action in Waterloo Region is a collaboration between local organizations where we work to meet a community-wide carbon reduction target. Led in partnership with Reap Green Solutions, Climate Action is working towards the current target of a 6% reduction by 2020, and we're really excited to share that a long-term target has been approved by the region of Waterloo as well as the cities of Kitchener, Waterloo, and Cambridge. This long-term target means that we'll soon be reaching out to you across the community to find out how we can work together towards this cleaner future. Charge WR is a volunteer program that enables people to give sustainable transportation a try in the area of electric vehicle infrastructure as well as vehicles themselves. And in 2017, we saw a 200% increase in electric vehicle technology adoption, as you can see from the chart on the screen. Evolve One, of course, you're going to hear a lot about today, but let me suffice to say that we're really proud of the role that we at Sustainable Waterloo Region have played in bringing the vision of this first of its kind, award-winning, net positive energy building to life. Kudos to the Cora Group for their incredible commitment and work that they've done, and I'm excited for you to hear both from Malul Bellamy as well as Stantec all about the technical elements of this building. Within the building, we're also working with a variety of partners on the Evolve Green. This is where we are working towards the clean tech cluster development in partnership with both universities and the Accelerator Center. We encourage you to keep an eye open to what's happening there and to come and visit the building when it opens later this year. Of course, the thing that people know us best for is the Regional Sustainability Initiative, and this is a target-setting program where we support organizations to help them reduce their impact in the areas of carbon, waste, and water. And over 41,000 tons of carbon have already been reduced, with commitments of almost 60,000 tons across 70+ organizations. We offer these organizations supports, including one-on-one coaching, events for inspiration and education, lots and lots of best practices and resources, recommendation, even software to help them track what their impact is and make good decisions. If you are interested in sustainability, if it's a central part of who you are, or even if you're just looking to save money, align your human resources, mitigate possible risk, or develop some great branding, we encourage you to reach out and look at this program. We would love to work with you. There are a number of new organizations that have joined the program in 2017 and 2018, and a big welcome to Diva International, EcoVert CX, and the Township of Woolwich. TravelWise is a program that is run in partnership with the region of Waterloo, with the ultimate goal of reducing the number of single occupancy vehicles on the road. We do this by offering discounted transit passes, carpool matching software, emergency ride home service, and plenty of employee engagement opportunities. And the program in 2017 saw over 500,000 alternative kilometers logged on our website. We're really excited about the kind of progress that this program has made and welcome the new members that have joined in the past year or so. Of course, this is work that's not done independently. Over 10 years, this community has come together to create one movement, and we encourage all of you to consider how a sustainable future is good for your business. Everything that Sustainable Waterloo Region does focuses on that perfect synergy between economy and environment, and finding the ways that we can help you be a better, stronger business by being more sustainable, by reducing your impact, and by aligning with the values of your key stakeholders. We encourage you to please take a look at our year report, to reach out to us. I would love to meet you in person. And again, my apologies for not being there. Thanks again to Ian and the entire Chamber crew for putting on the Energy and Environment Forum, for keeping this important topic top of mind for our community's business organizations. Our ever so strong thanks to the Core Group for their commitment and partnership over the past few years. And thanks to all of you for taking the time to be here today. I hope you have a great day. Enjoy their presentation on Evolve One, and let's have a clean, sustainable future in all of Waterloo Region.
Thank you to Tova for taking the time to make that video and keep us informed of the important work that they're doing, and we appreciate their partnership. I have to double back and say I did miss one of our sponsors, and when you're dealing with the talent level that's at the podium here, it's not hard to imagine that I missed one. But I do want to highlight that Steco Electric is one of our silver sponsors as well, and I apologize to them. That's an oversight. The reader did not read what was on the script, so I apologize for that. I do, this is the Energy and Environment Forum, and we'll hear, about the Evolve program in just a few minutes. But before we do that, I wanted to, as we often do, talk about ways that particularly small and medium-sized business that are in operation right now can help themselves save money, because the cost of doing business is a huge issue for most business right now. And of course, hydro costs are one of the biggest expenditures for most business. So our local utilities, Kitchener-Wilmot Hydro and Waterloo North, and the Save on Energy programs are great ways to invest and invest some money and save dollars, but also reduce your energy or your environmental impact. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to introduce you right now to Jeff Quint from the Save on Energy program, and Jeff's partner John Finch is here as well. Where's John? He's around here somewhere. There he is right there. From Kitchener-Wilmot Hydro. They're experts at teaching us more about retrofitting your home or your business to save money and energy. Jeff is the Manager of Energy Efficiency and Corporate Communications for Waterloo North Hydro, where he leads the utility's portfolio of energy efficiency programs and corporate communications initiatives. He has 13 years experience in the energy service and utility sector with a strong focus on energy efficiency, demand management, customer service, and communications. He's an MBA from Wilfrid Laurier and a Bachelor of Engineering Science in Electrical Engineering from Western. Jeff has a passion for energy efficiency and energy management and has an eye on the future of the electricity system, including electric vehicles, energy storage, distributed energy resources, and integrated energy systems. I'd like to invite Jeff to come up, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the programs that you or the people that you work with can be utilizing to save money and reduce your energy footprint. Jeff and the Save on Energy program have been, we've worked very closely with at the Chamber. And one of the questions that always comes up when we're talking with small businesses of ways that they can save money on their energy costs and their hydro bill is what are the programs that they can utilize? But even before they get to, there are programs available. A lot of times they want to know how to get started. Like, how do they get, what are the things they need to do to get started so they can get the right answers as programs that are best fit for their business?
That's a pretty good question, Ian, and I'm glad I wrote it for you. Perfect.
Well, 5 of them you wrote for me, so I hope they're good questions.
And I'm glad you're actually following them.
I did. I don't often do that, but I did. It's right there. How do I get started?
I don't even have to pull up my notes. You know, I'm going to take the approach of how we as a utility, when I speak,
A little more into the
when I say we, I represent Waterloo North Hydro, but there's Kitchener-Wilmot Hydro and there's Energy Plus in the region, and all 3 utilities all offer the same programs and very, very similar services. But when I say we, it's we for all 3 utilities. I think the approach that we all generally take is with a customer is we want to get to know a customer. We have to understand their business, how they operate, and what they do first before we can help them. So you want to ask questions about what do you do, and we want to get into the nuts and bolts of their business and understand the operations, their operating hours. We want to understand some challenges they have. Are they financially strapped? Are they resource strapped? Are they technology strapped? Do they have a sore point in one of their areas of their business? And then what are their goals? Where do they want to get to? Because that's really important. Do they just want to improve the environment? Are they looking to lower their GHGs? Their motivations are going to be a key contributor to how we're going to approach the customer and where we're going to go with them. And then the very small one that's actually a really big one is we want to understand how they measure success. And we want to measure it in their terms. So we talk in kilowatt hours, which everybody loves. Everybody in this room understands it 100%. But that's not where a business operates. If you're a restaurant, it's what's my average table value? And how many tables do I turn a night or a month? Or if you're a business, how many of my widgets do I put out the door? And I want to get to that level because then I can take my energy number, which means a whole lot to me and I'm very passionate about, but I can put it into a number that they easily understand. And we're often talking to the financial people and they understand dollars to cents very well. But if I can put it down into that widget, that unit of measurement, whether it's a student at a university and the amount of tuition that they could bring in additionally by doing a project, then it really resonates with the customer.
One of the things I often get asked when we talk about these types of programs, do I have to hire a consultant? Like, is the program so complicated that I can't just get started myself? Do I need to hire a consultant? Do I have to do an audit? What should we be telling the business partners that we're working with, our members of the Chamber of Commerce, or anyone that we're working with?
I think it all comes down to where a customer is at in their journey of, say, energy efficiency and energy management. So if they are just learning to crawl, maybe you don't have to dig that deep and get into the consultant audit stage. But if you've done a lot and you're really now getting into some really technical measures, or you're really getting into some intricacies of your business, you're going to bring in some technical resources that have the know-how and the knowledge to do it. But if you're starting to just crawl, like I said, and looking at maybe your lighting, you're probably not going to have to dig in too far and spend a lot of money to get to where you want to get to.
So where are some of the things, I mean, lighting's obviously one, but where are the areas, and then we'll dig in a little bit in a minute, but where are some of the areas that business should be looking to reduce their consumption and thereby save money? What are some of the main areas?
Well, as much as we like to ignore lighting, lighting is, for lack of a better description, it's the gateway drug to energy efficiency, and that's my best analogy, and everybody gets it at that point in time. But in all honesty, the lowest common denominator across all buildings and all facilities is lighting. Every building has it, and every building is using it. And lighting is visible. It's easy to see, and it's easy to see the improvement. The reason it's easy to see is that lighting is often neglected. Just like you should be changing your oil in your car, or your furnace filter. You know what? There's maintenance that should be happening to lights. That's why they get dark and dim. They degrade over time. So lighting is one of the great ways that customers can start and make a difference and they see it, and everybody else in their business and customers can see it. And not only to get an energy savings out of it, but they get a lot of non-energy benefits. So you may get improved lighting. LEDs are a really bright light, so they provide a lot more illumination than their predecessors. Was that such a bad thing if you're lighting up the exterior building or roadways? No. You're going to bring more increased safety to it. So there are other benefits inside an office. You might have moved this cubicle and that cubicle over the years, but you really didn't pay attention to the lighting. It's good enough. And now you've got an opportunity to redesign the space. you've got an opportunity to really ask some questions about how much light do I really need? Is there other opportunities to save? Just changing lights are one thing, but maybe you want to add some controls, or if the sun is out and there's enough daylight coming in, maybe I just shouldn't turn them on. So there's it's a simple thing, but yet it's something that everybody sees and experiences. And like I said, it's a visible difference that then can open the conversation to something else.
I personal experience, I think I told you this last time we met, I think it was in March, and the Save on Energy programs were there for reduced significant savings just on lighting, some LED lights and that sort of thing. And I happened to take a look at my hydro bill and looked at that I was the exact same consumption, and my cost had gone up by about 12 or 13% year over year. And so I just went out and made those, made that investment of buying those lights and basically changing every light bulb in my house. And I think that's what you're talking about, the low hanging fruit that can save you money by using those high efficiency types of lighting, whether you're a business or an individual. But beyond lighting, what are some of the other, what are the next things that once you're suggesting and it makes sense, start with lighting, what's next after that?
That's a really good question, because what's next is really going to be dependent on the business at a lot of times. If you're in an office environment, you're probably not going to have a lot of process equipment. Your process is people. Maybe there's computers, maybe you have IT and a lot of servers or something like that, but it depends what you're doing. So another almost common denominator across things are ventilation and heating and cooling, and those are a lot of opportunities, because there's a lot of times, if you think about it, you're always moving air around and you're always heating and you're always cooling, no matter what season it is in. And every time you introduce airflow, you're conditioning that air. So let's figure out, do you need to bring that much air in and out, and are you bringing the right amount in? So maybe you should look at some sort of demand control systems. But you've got to temper that air. You've got to heat it, cool it, humidify it, or dehumidify it. All of those eat up energy. So if you can reduce the amount of the flow and the amount of air moving through, there's a good starting point. But then look at the technologies that are doing the heating and cooling and things like that. That's a good spot in an office environment. And then if you're in a manufacturing facility, there's a lot of the work on the fourth utility. So you've got gas, you've got water, and you've got electricity. And in a manufacturing facility, it's compressed air. So start looking at that, because it's not free. You're paying a bill, so you're using electricity to compress air, and then you'll flow that air through the building, and there's losses, and then you'll put it in place. You can do a process or run a tool. Maybe you should just use the electric tool in that spot. So let's look at the end use and work back through it, right? So it's not as simple as, let's change this, change that. Let's get to understand what it's using energy in facilities, and then establish what the next steps are. Because it is very different depending on if you're, like I said, manufacturing or a food processing facility versus an office or, a university.
How do you partner? I mean, one of the question that you did write from here, but I'm going to add something to it to try and trip you up. You said, what kind of support is out there for companies? But I maybe a little further, you work with companies that have technologies and processes in place. How do you try and connect existing businesses that can help with these types of changes that businesses need to implement?
Well, I think first and foremost, we always try and respect the existing relationships that a customer has. So we don't want to push out a vendor that they already work with. That we first and foremost want to work with that vendor to help them understand the programs, because they're not easy. That's a simple aspect of it. They're not easy, but we understand them and we work with them every day. We can make it easy to get us involved, but we'll help that vendor understand it. We might get them training. We might help them understand how it can benefit their business, that they can increase their sales because they take advantage of the incentives, and they build the savings into their business case with a customer, and they're off to the races and they can increase their sales that way. So that's what we first try and do. If that vendor's not willing or just not interested in participating, then we're going to connect customers to vendors that are participating, that have done good work out there in the marketplace, that have a reputation and have had some success factors and some successful stories out there. That's the next step, no matter if it's lighting or if it's compressed air or refrigeration or something like that. But like I said, we're first and foremost trying to work with existing vendors that are in relationships that are there and teach them how there are benefits of the programs. And then if not, then we bring in the partners that we know are out there in the marketplace.
So we've talked about a number of the programs, and I think one of the things is you should do a shameless plug and say how do people connect with you, which is through you or John, the Save on Energy programs. So do that as part of your answer. But what I guess the real question I have is, how do you get really good at constantly looking at it? So it's not, okay, we did our lighting and then forget about it. I mean, to me, I think you have to, we do this and see this with many of our businesses, they're constantly looking every year, every 6 months on where their costs are going, and they're seeing the increases. Is this a case of you constantly need to be looking at where you're spending money on energy and how you can manage those down? Is it a constant, almost constant process improvement?
At the end of the day, to become really good at it is you've got to bake energy efficiency, energy management into your business process like anything else. If you know there's a specific commodity that you're vulnerable to in your business, you're watching it and you're tracking it. Well, a lot of times nobody's tracking energy. It's just there. It's an unmanageable commodity to most. But that's not true. It's unmanageable because you're not monitoring and tracking it. And that's where customers need to get to, is monitoring and tracking it, seeing it, making it visible to all their partners within their business. So making it part of a corporate, a KPI. Making sure that costs are assessed down into different business units within the building, right? My IT guy's not gonna wanna hear this, but often when we get to businesses, there's this black box room in the middle of the building. It's the server room, it's where the IT guys are. And facilities are told, give me this much power and this much cooling. You're not coming in. Just get it to my doorway and go. Well, as the costs start getting assessed down to the IT group, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, that's not right. Well, that's what you asked for. This is what you're getting. Oh, this is, by the way, how much it costs to get X and Y. All of a sudden, they're very interested in having the facilities people in that room because they now see the true cost of it. So you've made it visible commodity to them, as opposed to an invisible commodity where hey, it doesn't matter, we'll plug this server in and it'll just blast away and we'll do this and do that and we won't cool it properly, or we have a cooling temperature that's 65 degrees where you could be hovering at an 80 degree or something like that. But I use IT as an example. I don't mean to pick on you guys out there, but that's a common one. But it's all the way along. Maybe there's a product line in your business that when you start assessing the commodity down to that product line, it doesn't make sense because it's really not making you a lot of money because the energy costs are so intensive to it, right? So it's making it visible and it's taking it down to that level. And then figuring out, okay, what's my strategy? What am I gonna do with this? Where do I wanna go with it? And establishing a plan. And then, maybe that's when you do an audit, but I don't want to see an audit then go up on the shelf. There's my plan. It's beautiful. It's right there. Let's act on it. And then let's revisit it every 6 months to 12 months. Because that's what you do with your financial plan. And that's what you do with your human resources department and probably your trucks if you've got a fleet. Why not treat energy the same? And not just electricity, gas, water, waste. There's lots of opportunity there, right? So make sure that you look at it and bring it to that forefront, and then that's the companies that we see are making the difference. Whether that's installing simple sub-metering or installing really complex sub-metering, or maybe it's just looking at the bill and making it visible across the company. Doing that kind of an action is where you're going to drive action, because there's a lot of people that are sitting in your companies that got really good ideas. Trust me.
Great. Okay, we're going to leave it there, but just before we let you go and we get on to the next session, how do people get in touch with you or John or the Save on Energy program?
So each utility has a lot of information on our website. You can call us, you can email us. So check out each utility's website, get in touch with John or myself here. And if you're not in one utility's territory or the other, get in touch with anybody in the utility business. I think gas companies as well. We work really closely together and we share information. We're not islanded, and we'll share information across. But make sure you give us a call, send us an email, check our website out. We're here to help. We have a lot of support services out there to help you, look at stuff, evaluate stuff, and assess the opportunities there. So it's not free because you pay us every month, and we thank you for that. But it's no additional cost. We're not going to send you a bill to help you through there.
All right, thanks, Jeff. I appreciate your time today. Welcome to our panel. And I've been looking forward to this since I hoodwinked you all to come up on stage to talk about the Evolve project. A number of weeks ago, I had Jeff on our radio show to talk about this, and we sort of just scratched the surface of the many things that were part of this program. But I want to start with Adrian. I think this, and I think Tova rightly gave kudos to Cora Group for having started down this path, down the path in this project. What was the inspiration? Did you wake up one morning and say, I want to build a net zero building, or how did it happen?
Kind of. Many of you will know my parents, who are very passionate around the environment. They've got a large farm. Everything they do there is sustainable. They've got large gardens, and so that's kind of rubbed off on me. We've been working in the sustainable space for about 15 years now in the David Johnson Research and Technology Park. And funny enough, it was late 2013, I was chatting with my parents, and we were saying, well, what do we want to do next? And the philosophy was, okay, we've done the LEED, we got our LEED Gold certification. We were the first LEED certified multi-tenant building in the region, actually I think Southwestern Ontario. So we said we want to build a building that starts producing its own energy. Instead of, so we wanted to pursue LEED Platinum, but how do we go one step further? And that's where we came up with the idea of generating energy. But then I met Tova, and the Sustainable Waterloo Region's vision really aligned with ours, and we hit on building. What we can do this, and we're going to do it. And that's how it came to be. And I can't forget EY. So EY was part of that at the beginning as well. So we had the Research Park, Sustainable Waterloo Region, EY, and Cora, all sharing that vision of creating this better workplace for the future.
So I'm going to come to Jeff in just a minute about the particulars of this construction project. But Richard, you got an ambitious project, and you talked a little bit about, and I'll come back to Adrian about building the team. But when you're doing an ambitious building program like this, there's lots of input you would need in order to get everyone on the same page, but also then figure out how to make the numbers work. What were the challenges in getting all of that information together from Stantec and from figuring out how to put the plan together?
Yeah, it's a really, really good question.
And you wrote that one for me
it's
too.
an excellent question.
Just I wrote that one.
I think, well, first of all, from the start, as soon as we at Stantec heard about this project and wanted to basically said, like, this is it. This is the golden project. This is fantastic because it brings so many of our key ambitions and goals together in terms of one project. Now, that being said, the project did start out first as a feasibility study and then as a building design. As a feasibility study with Sustainable Waterloo Region and Tova involved, they cast widely for participation, for a lot of stakeholder input, a lot of ideas, and so that's great at the start, but ultimately, at the end, we had to remind everyone the result was going to be a building. And Adrian was very clear, like, okay, you've got to focus this in. And so we came up with this idea of an ideas funnel. Basically, at the beginning, fine, cast wide, but then we need to have criteria to make decisions. We need to keep narrowing that funnel down to ultimately what's going to comprise the building that we're actually going to build. That also involved a lot of tools that are just now reaching a level of sophistication that really helps on an ambitious project like this, such as parametric modeling. I mean, a lot of you may be familiar with energy modeling, predictive to show, depending on what you do, how much energy you're going to use, but that can be costly and time consuming. We have worked to create a parametric model where now we can actually look at all of the, create parameters for all the different things we can do in terms of building components, various costs of components, energy outcomes, and run simulations where we can go through a few thousand simulations at once. And this allowed us to really focus in on what we could actually achieve within the building, to achieve from an energy standpoint, but also from a cost standpoint. And this allowed us to take all of these big ideas and through this evaluation, funnel it down to what ultimately could actually be included within the building and make it commercially feasible as an overall project.
So Jeff, Balul has got extensive experience across Ontario, frankly, but certainly in this region, and you've done LEED buildings before. And I mean, some of us, I was on city council when we did our first LEED building as the city of Waterloo. So just a little familiar with that process. What makes this building different in terms of from the lead construction to what you're doing in this project? What are some of those differences that you discovered in the construction process?
Thanks, Ian. I didn't write that question.
No, I did. So if you can't answer it, that's my fault.
I think probably one of the first things I thought when Adrian approached us about, you want to do what? And but our experience in doing LEED, we probably have done about 50 LEED projects in the past, and we were involved in one other one in Kitchener. It was a triple platinum LEED building, a fraction of the size of what Adrian was trying to do here. But I think that the approach and the whole piece is that it's very unique in the sense of the size of the building and also the net positive nature. And that was something that was new to us from what that meant. We have done some fairly significant photovoltaic installations for the city of Kitchener and their maintenance facility a few years ago. That was the largest one I think that we'd ever been involved with. And then to be approached to do this, it was taking the design criteria, which was work with Stantec, and then the important piece for us was to bring in some key players to help make it work, because I think we were more cost contractors at the start of this and then general contractors, and it was really getting the opportunity that Adrian gave us there to be a part of the team. I think we met with Stantec about a year ago in January for the first time in Toronto. I still remember sitting around the table there going over all this work that was done in the past couple of years, and then we were basically there to try to come up with a buildable cost to make the whole thing work. And one of the partners is here today with Steckel Electric. I think they're here as one of the sponsors today, and Conestoga Mechanical. We brought them in as what we call design assist now. And those were two of the very key components as being the bigger cost items. Have them at the table right at the start so that we knew kind of the target where we're going, whether it was going to work in the grand scheme of things, and then also work with Stantec through the design process and constructability to ensure there was going to be success at the end. The other big piece in here was Vigor, which also has a booth in here, and they were part of a tender process, but when they were brought on board, they were a very key player to go back through the calculations that Stantec had done to, number one, ensure that their systems met, and there were some modifications that were made also again to ensure the success of the measurement and the production of electricity this was going to give to make it that. Some other unique things was the cooling geothermal system, the open flow. We've done many geothermal, but not the open flow before, so that system is just getting commissioned right now. There's a solar volt system that's at the front of the building. When you walk in, you wouldn't, but the normal person wouldn't know, but they're all perforated panels, and it's bringing in fresh air into the building that is filtered through dampers, and then it's tied into a complicated building automated system in here that opens and closes when the temperature allows it to. And also too, there's other unique things like light sensors around the whole perimeter of the building. So 16 feet inside the building around the perimeter, the lights will automatically dim depending on the amount of light that is being brought in. There again, this was designed with the Stantec electrical team. So from that point, there's a lot of other standards lead items of materials that we follow a track list, and you have to achieve a certain amount of points to get there. And that was all set out, and with our experience of dealing and executing those types of things, it was a matter of having good execution at that point.
So Adrian, I mean, given what both Richard and Jeff just talked about, at some point you still have to get the numbers to work. So going through the sales funnel, figuring out what the how you're going to do the construction, what are the materials, but ultimately you would have had to provide some definition of saying what's in, what's out, like what's nice to have, what needs to be in, because you still have to get a return on investment. You still have to be able to pay for the project. Talk a little bit about how that process worked before you got to finalizing what the project was going to be.
So, I guess through the process, the vision was to design a zero carbon replicable building. So something that we could build and lease out at market rates in the market. So that was the vision. With that, we just went through a process where, we selected our design team. So we went through a process and selected Stantec. An amazing company with an amazing bandwidth of resources from, I had the benefit of working with the hydrogeology team right in Waterloo, solar right in Waterloo. We've got structural engineering, electrical, mechanical. So worked with one consultant under one roof that was able to, provide all the answers we needed. And then Jeff had alluded, we also brought in Conestoga Mechanical and Stecco Electric from a design assist point of view, and the rationale there was we're looking to build something that was going to be a little different. It was a complicated problem, and I wanted all the people at the table at the same time, and even in selecting Little Blaney. So we wanted to choose a contractor that could also be a partner in the project in designing it. And I got to say, the whole team has been amazing at helping with that. So through the process, you have your budgets and you have your discussions to decide what's in, what's out. And what's really unique about this is while it was a very complex problem to solve, and the parametric models Stantec used, I got to see those the first time a year ago in Vancouver at the CHBC conference. And they talked about those. That was the first time I saw them other than the feasibility study you guys did. And we looked at whether we need triple pane windows, double pane windows, how the mechanical system was going to work. And then you could put a cost to things. And ultimately we came up with a solution.
So I guess the follow-up question, I'll stick with you for a minute, is, this is it's been a success. Rightfully, there's been a lot of interest and energy around this building. Is this the type of building, a model you will do again in the future, given your experience? Or is it situational? Will it depend on having the right tenants that are prepared to come on board, the right piece of land, the right, what are those factors that would lead you to say, we did this and it was successful, we would do it again? Because it may not be, and I think, Jeff, you may have said on the radio show, it's not for every building. It may be situational. What's your view in terms of from the core perspective?
Well, Evolve 1 is about 90% leased up right now. So we're just wrapping. We've got several tenants in the building that are going through fit out. Mm-hmm. So they're completing their space. As I get that wrapped up, we're going to start working on site plan work for Evolve 2. Oh, wow. Which is right across the road. Both buildings are 80 meters away from the ion station or stop. So we will start there, and the goal on that project will be zero carbon. Again, I have to decide whether I want to push LEED Platinum or some of the other goals. There's so many targets out there you can aim for, but so Evolve 2 will be probably 130,000 square foot, zero carbon building, and again, we're leasing at market rates.
That's impressive. Richard, one of the things we talked about, and I think we've talked about the building itself. So we've talked about the energy and the carbon achievements inside the building and the net zero, and actually contributing back into the grid. But what about the people that are in the building? We talk a little bit about what makes this building transformational for them. It in my view, it is the next beyond the leads, and it's the interest is because it is unique. But what makes a difference for someone that's actually going to be working in the building?
Yeah, I think that's really important that we don't forget that ultimately the point of the building is to provide a space for people to be able to be in and carry out their businesses and be successful in their individual businesses. So within the building, first of all, the systems that were designed and are going into constructed into the space are very fine-tuned with a lot of controls, really to be able to provide the best environment from a heating and cooling and ventilation standpoint. So first of all, the environment that the individual tenants will be coming into will be much more comfortable and actually allow them to be much more productive. We've got a lot of daylight opportunity in there, as well as a lot of very great energy efficient lighting in the space. So we've tried to create an environment within the individual tenant spaces that will allow them to really carry out their businesses and be very productive. But in addition to that, and this is one of the things that Adrian made clear right from the beginning, is it needs to be something that is also tuned to who the likely tenants will be, which will be from the tech community. Now, ranging from startups and incubators through to blue chip companies like EY. And so it needed to provide that extra level of what we call creative collision within spaces, where the individual tenants, rather than just sort of walking in the front door to the elevator and go to their individual offices, there are opportunities for them to interact and to have these creative collisions, because the blue chip company can then really interact with the startup, and you can get some amazing business results coming out of that. And so as part of that, the building was designed to also have a 3-story sort of atrium lobby space, which for a building of this type generally is just not the norm. And so that's where the vision of how this was to become a collaborative building really came to fruition, that we have this 3-story atrium space that will be the primary circulation route, so that everyone, as they're coming in and going out to lunch, going to grab a coffee, will be interacting with other tenants in the building. Everyone will share in the use of this space. It's got a 3-story green wall to also give it some of this great biomimetic kind of quality within the space. Off of this space will be a collaboration area as well as a cafe. So we've got lots of opportunity for the tenants to be able to interact, as well as atrium space now becomes an opportunity to showcase things like product launches or collaboration with the university on research projects. So the atrium space itself will become something that I think you can look forward to actually visiting when there are events taking place there, because I think that's really going to be a very active space. The other thing that is happening, from an energy and carbon standpoint, we've got lots of metering within the building to be able to sort of manage how those things are performing. But also within the building, because it was one of the primary things was to also make it sort of a living lab, there are some research projects going on to be able to actually see how occupants behave within a very ambitious, highly sustainable building. And so this building will continue to give back information and learning through its overall operation with the tenants. And so we'll really understand how all of the sustainability affects people in the building.
So Jeff, being a general contractor day-to-day, every project has got its complexities, and I guess this would be no different. There was challenges here, but were there specific things like innovative or new materials or different partners you had to use or design elements that made it more complex from your perspective? And I guess ultimately, with this newer process on the construction side, how were you able to achieve, because ultimately it all rolls into how were you able to achieve that cost certainty? In a traditional build, you guys, you do enough of them, you know exactly what's in there. And in something like this that is new and innovative, there's new design elements. How did you get to that cost certainty on a complex new approach to building?
Well, one good thing is that we're sitting here and Adrian and I are actually smiling. So that, and Richard, so I think that's a testament to the team we had too. It was truly a team effort. We needed as much participation with consultant and the owner as we went through confirming all these costs. These budgets started back in the fall of before I guess, what is it now, 18, 17, 16. Confirming budgets in March. Construction started a year ago, May. And the challenges in that piece was we created those budgets, and the two key partners I mentioned earlier were a big part of that component because they were the most expensive, the mechanical being the biggest one. But we had to maintain that cost throughout, from right through to the design process to delivering materials. In the challenges on the actual site itself, bringing Vigor in was something that was a little newer to us, but it was very good relationship, I think, that was made with the entire team to make that work. In the parking lot, there was, when you'll see next time, they have a picture I saw today, because I was wondering if they started yet, but the structures are now going up, and the parking lot will fill above the car parking, and the foundations that had to go in between and incorporating all that was a bit of a challenge, I think, last year, but again, from a team effort of ensuring that all the space requirements work, doors open properly, you'll see it's quite unique. I haven't seen another installation like that around this area at all. So when we get into the building part in here, I think coordination was probably one of the biggest challenges. All these specialized systems required lots of research, lots of coordination from spaces, and then creating a tie-in for the tenant spaces. We're fortunate enough right now to be doing the majority of the tenant fit-outs, which is also key to the continuity of the building. And I think our biggest piece is coming right now is the commissioning. And we're just starting that right now with electromechanical pieces. And the success of the building obviously is going to come. We've had good installation and inspection throughout, but now the real work comes to ensure that all those systems will work. And I believe, and Richard can probably chime in, I think it's going to take probably about 6 months as the building's running into a year of occupied load building of this nature to really understand and tweak. But one of the unique things about it is the building automated system that's incorporated. And there's like a dashboard that I was talking to Steve Steckel earlier today about that you can tie into it, and you get a snapshot of the whole entire building of the energy consumption. And I think Richard alluded to that maybe that's where these experiments are coming from. So that is another unique piece that will be a testament, I think, to Adrian and the ability of the capital costs that has gone in up front, even to make it affordable, but the big win is going to be to see what the savings are of the clean energy from the ground. There's no gas being used to heat this building. It's coming out of the ground with the exchangers, the geo-exchange, and that's the amazing part about it.
One thing I did just want to add, and I think we can't overemphasize this enough, is the need for open communication. And this happened when Malou Blamey joined the team. We sat together in a room, and it was extremely important that we had basically everything on the table. We obviously had what we thought was the design and what we thought was going to work, and costing that's been done to date. But Malou Blamey came to the table, and Jeff was great in terms of going through everything. We examined everything, and it was really all questions and issues were on the table. What was going to work best to make it work, and with Conestoga and Stecco joining at the table, we were really able to nail down the final what the final result would be and an understanding of the cost. And Adrian was extremely cooperative, and all he was clear about is, here's the final goal. You tell me what I need to do in terms of some variations on systems or products that we select. But he drove and just kept saying, here's the final goal. But I think the level of cooperation and communication was great. And I think it speaks completely opposite to what sometimes is thought about as an adversarial relationship in the construction industry. This was totally cooperative and really was fundamental to us reaching a successful conclusion and still being able to sit together up on the stage.
Still talking. We had hoped to actually, when we first started with the idea of doing this, to actually be doing this in the building, and obviously that was ambition on our part because you were up and running. So you talked about, and I know we have some, and I don't know whether Adrian you want to talk. We've got a number of slides that talk about or Richard maybe, the first renderings of what it was going to look like and how it got refined a little bit. Maybe just talk a little bit about with some of those slides. So, there was a rendering of the first, is that the original one? So what are we looking at there?
So there's the view from and I mean, like we don't even need to look at a rendering now, we can just sort of walk over to the building now. But that's the view from the south, and so there you're seeing really what the building would look like. We've got a lot of strategies that were built into the building, like solar shades on all the windows within the middle of that facade, which you can't really see as clearly, but where the windows are a lot deeper, that's our solar wall, where it's preheating air that's coming into the building. One of the unique features was that at the east and west ends of the building, we have vertical sunshades, just because of the way the sun operates as it moves around the building. But the vertical sunshades, we also then ended up coloring those different colors depending on whether you're approaching from the north or the south. Because the building is facing the LRT, it also gives the LRT riders now a completely different view of the building as you're moving north or south along the LRT. That we understand will be in operation at some point in the future.
That's a separate point of view luncheon we're having as well. It's gonna get up.
I think I'd just like to add that it's always a good thing that the finished product does look like the rendering.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Thanks. Thanks, Jeff. But yeah, so I mean, and
So
then-
there's
Yeah.
the lobby. Go back. There's the lobby. That's the lobby you're talking, or
yeah, so that's the lobby. And there, that stairway that connects all 3 floors, that ends up being what we're hoping is the primary circulation through the building, so people can actually meet, interact as they're going up and down the stairs. There are elevators in the building, but we tuck those around the corner so they don't become the first thing you approach as you want to get to an office level. Given the size of the building and the position of this, almost all of the tenants actually have views into the atrium space as well. So it is really an active part of their daily life. And then the atrium was sized large enough with some built-in capabilities so that there could be presentations and product launches, that sort of thing. We can bring a car into the space. So that's really fairly important that this become part of the ongoing life of the building.
Now, one of the things, I mean, when you talk about the architectural features of this, I mean, how much did I mean, Adrian, maybe you can chime in as well. I mean, in terms of what you wanted the building to look like, how much of the technical parts of this building impacted or didn't impact your ability to have the architectural building that you wanted? Like, were there limitations that any of the design elements put on what the building could ultimately look like as a finished product?
So a good example of it would be windows.
Right.
So windows are not your best insulator. So in designing a highly energy efficient building, your design team wants to minimize windows. And I think the original we said was 30% window to wall. I think that was the original target. And I said, no, we got to 40 because I love natural light. So we actually figured out how to do that with a 40% window to wall ratio. So we've got lots of windows. They're triple pane windows and they're a little pricey, but so that's an example of what we did. The heart of this building is as you've heard, the geothermal or geo-exchange system and the solar panels, and we got Mitsubishi Electric to put in a VRF. Well, Comstone Mechanical's putting in, but it's a Mitsubishi variable refrigerant flow mechanical system. I mean, the system, yes, it's a little bit more, and I think Waterloo Hydro, you have something similar in your facilities. But these systems are so smart, they can heat and cool at the same time, and they can actually transfer energy from one place to the other. So yes, there is a premium, but what are you comparing yourself to? I like to think all our buildings that we've built in the park are high quality buildings. And when you're starting from that benchmark, yes, it is more an issue of just sitting around the table and figuring these things out. What else?
So there weren't really any, I mean, the limitations on the architects always come and say, hey, here's my idea. I mean, you took the feedback, went through the process and came up with and said, here's what it looked like. You weren't saying, oh, it'd be nice to do that, but we couldn't incorporate 2 or 3 design elements. You were able to still have this efficiency and the elements you wanted, and it didn't really impact your ability to have the building you want visually to see from the outside, or for that matter on the inside. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say, and I think it's because we went through an inclusive process, so that it wasn't that we came to the table with our ideas and then waited to see, you know, who would beat them back and who would start trying to carve away at them, right? It was a process where we were always at the table together, working through all of the options, fine-tuning it, so that in the end, when we did hit on sort of the final package of the systems, the design, everyone felt like they'd contributed, that they'd been part of making this happen. So everyone said, okay, yeah, this is it. This is the right answer. And that was, again, really great. Like, you know, at the end, you didn't felt like you gave up something, or that this was second best. This was what we wanted to achieve.
So,
Ian, just one quick thing, and one of the visual aspects, and I do have to throw a plug out to our sister company, Sutera. Sorry, Adrian. But they have a booth at the back, but we have a state-of-the-art in-ground waste management collection system that's installed on that site. And you can see the pictures in there. Everything is underground. And it's not as sexy as things Richard did, but there's a lot of very innovative aspects to it. The guys at the back, Bill and Fred, can fill you in on that if you're interested.
okay, now we're just about out of time. I want to ask one more question, and maybe open it up to the audience just for a couple of minutes, or if there's anything else we want to add in. But the good news is that the building's done. You're about to do your commissioning, but from my perspective, deserve credit for a great building in and of itself, but the awards are already starting to come in. And maybe, Adrian, you can talk a little bit about, I told you I was going to get this wrong, is it the Canadian Construction Building Association? Canadian Green Building Association, I got it, there you go. Tell us about the award.
So the Canadian Green Building Council is the organization that certifies LEED. So they, I think, started a few years ago thinking about what is the next evolution of LEED. And they started focusing on carbon. So how do we reduce carbon? And they came out about a year and a bit ago with the Zero Carbon Building Pilot Program. We learned about that, and again, it was just like when I met Tova. It was very aligned with what we were doing. So we became one of 16 buildings that joined their pilot program, and we were very proud to announce that just before Earth Day in April that we announced we were the first certified Canadian building of zero carbon design, because the building has to run for a year before we can get the accreditation for running. But so we were very proud to receive the first in Canada certification from them, which is important because it's a credible organization that validates everything that Stantec designed, our vision that we'll build. So that was one, and then I had the privilege of being at the Canadian Green Building Council's event a few weeks back, and we won the Green Building Excellence Award for Zero Carbon. So that is the first time that award has ever been given out. So Evolve One was very pleased to accept that. And Evolve One, when I say that, Cora's a part of that, but it's the team that won that.
Okay. We have time for one or two questions before we wrap up. Is there any questions, anyone from the audience? Don't be shy. No, you, sir.
Well, hi, Mike Savell with Grand River Energy. You mentioned, Adrian, at the start that one of the goals was to build a net zero building and be able to sell it at retail market prices that reflect a normal building. Did you ever go to the market and test that? See if you could get a price that might be better? And I guess the second part is, you're at 9% occupancy. If you didn't build this building the way you did, would you still be at 90 or maybe something less?
Very good question. So I have not tried to get a higher rent. So we've been on the market asking for what we've asked. And I don't. So building a highly sustainable building is one component of it. I think another component is it's a very well designed and well built building as well. So being a LEED Platinum candidate with triple pane windows, with the mechanical system we're talking about, it creates a very good indoor environment and great workspace. So I think everything we do kind of fits in that mold. So I don't know that I would build a building that's not up to certain standards like that.
Just to add too, I think the shape of the building has a lot to do with the cost effectiveness, because if you drive by it, it's a rectangle. It's a rectangle with a lot of really cool elements, but I think the simplicity of the main structure is what really kept it in line from our part of the cost perspective.
Okay, I think what we'll do now, and because I know each of you have had, when we talked earlier, wanted to make sure that we covered off from each of your perspectives for the audience what this building meant to you and what this project meant to you. So maybe we'll start and just go down the line. Any closing thoughts on the project itself and what you take away from your own perspective on, we'll start with you, Richard. What do you take away from this project and what does it mean to Stantec?
Well, I mean, for us, first of all, it proves that this is achievable, that we can have a high-performance building like this that is commercially viable, that is net positive, net zero carbon, and I think that was great for us. And I think as receiving this, the first certification was also extra sweet, I'll say, because the other project that we were neck and neck with was an institutional project with a significantly higher budget. And so to be able to actually drive a project like this that is commercially viable and still something that from a design standpoint we are extremely proud of, I think just makes it a really great achievement for all of us. And I have to admit, we also been able to forge some very good relationships with some very good people within the Waterloo building community.
Jeff?
Well, I think there's no question any project like this is rewarding when it comes to the innovation that's put in. It challenged our team. Richard talks about relationships. People like Vigor that are here, never worked with them myself before. Just to see what they would do and also go through and understand the new technologies, it just makes us a better company in the end and to be able to apply ourselves.
Adrian?
I don't know if you have the ability to put that one slide up, that
Which
temperature slide.
Oh, the temperature slide?
So I ran across this at the Zero Carbon Summit or event a few weeks ago, and I'd like everyone to have a look at that. Now, I was in Mexico, came home last night. I was walking through the airport, and they had all kinds of posters on sustainability, and one I really took note of, water bottles. The one poster said, if we continue using water bottles the way we're using them, there's going to be more water bottles in the ocean than fish. And then when I look at this temperature slide, last year we had, I think, in June, July, 3 days over 30 degrees, and then in September we had 4. This year, we're just into June, and I think we've had about the same. In February, we had a few days of t-shirt weather. So our politicians can agree or disagree that climate change is upon us. I think what's significant about this project is we were able to pull together an amazing team. We solved a complex problem with a really elegantly simple solution, I would say, in the end. What we came up with. Not everyone has to go 100%. You can go 50%, you can go 80%. And the cost is not really that much more, and maybe not more at all. So now it really comes down to tenants when you're looking for space, employees when you're looking, if talent attraction is that hard, so is that hard to keep? Should employees be demanding better sustainability practices of our developers, builders, landlords, employers? So we all have a choice, and this is an office building. This applies to industrial, to residential, to retail. So we all have the ability to make change, and I'm just thankful to have been able to work with a team that we could do this and hopefully disrupt an industry.
Perfect place to end our panel discussion. I want to thank Richard and Adrian and Jeff, and on behalf of the group and the chamber, I've got a book for each of you. There's a book we did about 3 years ago called County Roots Global Reach, and it's images of Waterloo Region from a community and business perspective. So we appreciate each of you taking time out of your schedule and supporting this event. Just before we close off, I want to thank our title sponsor for today, Kitchener-Wilmot Hydro and Waterloo North Hydro. To our gold sponsors, Malul Blaney, Stantec, and the Core Group. Silver sponsor, GHD and Stecco Electric. See, I didn't forget twice in one time. Apologize for that. Our bronze sponsors, Kitchener Utilities. Small business sponsors, Mulrooney and Associates, and my IT guy. And our community sponsor, again, Sustainable Waterloo Region and Tova Davidson. And to all of you for your continued support in making these events possible, please stay and view the booths and enjoy some more networking. On your way out, please do leave your name tag at the registration desk and we'll recycle it for future use. Thanks so much for coming today and have a great afternoon.